at whatever age you decide to retire, whether it's 65 or 75, how much longer are you going to live, and what are you going to do with those years? If you stop being surprised, if you stop putting yourself out there trying new things, then you die. You die in your head, you die in your heart.
Hello, you are listening to the Late Bloomer Living podcast, where we are reimagining and redefining what it means to be in midlife, where we are gathering energy, momentum, and excitement for our next chapter via candid conversations with other midlifers about their own pivots, pitfalls, and triumphs. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your host, and I'm so happy you're here. When was the last time you surprised yourself? It gets less frequent as we get older, doesn't it? By now, you've established some well-worn habits. I know I have. Frankly, they're comfortable. I like knowing what to expect. Mostly. Until I don't. Until I realize that I'm restless and bored, and maybe I feel stuck. Until I realize that I'm doing that thing again. That thing I keep trying to quit doing. Some of my habits are keeping me from taking my business to the next level, or they're keeping me from really connecting with people. I call that being in a rut. My guest today is Leslie Kain. Leslie worked as a therapist for a few years, and loved it, before she went back to school to get her MBA at Boston University. And she then began a career doing business development in AI and government intelligence so she could support her family as a single mom. Now, after her kids were grown and flown, she returned to her roots working in her first love, psychology. She was then serving as a director in nonprofits focusing on mental health. During the course of her career, she had written nonfiction, technical, scientific marketing pieces during those varied careers. And then with so many stories in her, she started to get curious about writing fiction. After several short stories were published in literary journals and an anthology, she then turned her attention to writing novels. And now, in her 70s, her first published novel is due out in September. Amazing, right? But really what's truly amazing, what I get excited about, is how Leslie surprised herself by simply learning the craft of writing. She was surprised by what writing opened up for her personally. And I can't wait for you to hear her story. Before we jump in, I want to invite you to listen to Leslie's story with curiosity about your own life. Really, when was the last time you surprised yourself? For me, it was hosting the Midlife Uprising Summit in May. I surprised myself simply because I was able to do it. It pushed me way outside my comfort zone. Let me tell you, I had to learn new tech. I had to ask for help, which is always an uncomfortable thing for me. I had to reach out to people I knew to ask them to be speakers. And what surprised me is that most of the people I asked said yes. And what surprised me even more, even though I hoped for it, is that the speakers and the people who participated in the event have kept in touch since then. Some of the speakers have since collaborated on other projects or been on each other's podcasts. And it fills my heart to see those relationships growing and blossoming, and I want the same for you. So I want to take a quick second to invite you to join my Midlife Uprising community, where you can get to know other women who are looking at their next chapter with curiosity and excitement, and coming together to support each other in figuring out our next adventures as we age. We're getting together on Zoom monthly. There are Monday morning meditation videos, and on Fridays, we're celebrating our wins in the community feed. So if this sounds like something you'd like to be a part of, you can get more information at midlifeuprising.com. I would love to see you there. Okay, without further ado, here's Leslie Kain. Let's go. Hey, Leslie, thank you so much for being with me today.
Glad to be here.
So you have a novel coming out, your first debut published novel, correct?
That's right.
So that's going to happen September 13th, is that right?
September 13th. Get ready for it.
That is so exciting. What's the title, real quick?
Secrets in the Mirror. And I'll tell you why it's Secrets in the Mirror.
Okay.
Because although it's a multi-generational family drama, it really focuses on identical mirror twins, one of whom is the good guy and one of whom is not necessarily so good.
Okay. So there's some
And there are
intrigue.
plenty of secrets in that family, by
Right.
the way.
And it's a psychological thriller, right?
Very much so.
Which
Yes.
ties into your background, which is in psychology, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
And this is your second novel now, right?
Yeah, I have a theory about first novels. I think that women in particular often get out their personal shit in first novels. So there's really too much of them in their first novels.
I could totally see that. If I were, I don't plan to write a novel, but I can totally see where I would be working out my personal
absolutely,
shit.
absolutely. And so
Yeah.
that's the first novel is a really good story, but I'm in major revision mode on that to kind of make it distant from me.
Oh, interesting. I love that.
About the character.
You're going back to it.
Yes.
And doing revisions.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Major overhaul.
So cool. So you feel like, okay, you had an experience with that first novel and it is what it is, but you're not just putting it in a drawer and letting it stay there. You're going to give it new life. You're like, okay, no, there's something here. Let's rework this.
I'm even changing the POV instead of third person past. I'm making it first person present.
Okay.
So
that's a big change.
It's like it's this other person that's talking.
Yeah.
And she has her whole thing, not me.
I love it. Oh my
So
goodness.
it's distancing from the shit that we all go through.
Yeah. I find that interesting because when I think about first person, I think about that being very personal. But it's for you, it's a tool to take it and take a little distance.
Exactly. Yes.
How
someone is talking to me as that person is telling her story.
Oh, so it's like she's telling Leslie the story.
Exactly. Well, that's the same with how I develop my characters. And most fiction writers that I know are into deep interviews of their character. So having a conversation with their character to explore every little thing about them so that you become totally imbued in your character. So then when you start writing the story, you may not be using every little tidbit that you learned in that interview.
Right.
But that is the person, and the person comes through in the story.
Absolutely. I get that because as a former performer, if you have as an actor, if you have a role that is not really super fleshed out in a story, in a play, and whatever, you have to do the work behind to bring all that subtext and fill it in. So
we should have a whole nother conversation about that one. I want to know more about that.
We should. So what I want to do, okay, so that's a great point. We should. I want to get back to kind of away from process and back to the idea of personal process for you. When did you start writing? Have you always been a writer?
I've always been a writer, but not necessarily fiction.
Uh huh.
As a matter of fact, I remember my honors English teacher in my senior year of high school. I go overboard on assignments, because assignments, as they're written, are always too simple for me. So I make it bigger, make it deeper and more meaningful.
Uh huh.
And so I had done that for my final thesis in high school. And I encountered him on the street like a year later. I wouldn't have recognized him. He recognized me. And the first thing he said was, "Leslie, are you still writing?" And I said, "Who are you talking
Wow,
to?"
wow.
So, yes, I've always been a writer. And in my career, it's been nonfiction, professional, scientific, technical, um, marketing, that kind of thing. And it's only when I reached a point where, after I had my psychology career, then to support my kids, I got my MBA and went into business development. Made tons of money. It's just, they always pay the people who bring in the revenue, right? And so, fine, I went back to my original love of psychology. And I was director, first regional at NAMI and national at CHAD for nonprofits for mental health. And so I'm back to my original love.
Ah.
And in writing, and I had to, in that role, I had to put out, quasi scientific papers and newsletters and so forth to help our clients, our followers, understand how to deal with certain mental illnesses. So I had to learn to cast a story in this genre of psychology. All right.
Ah.
So that sort of flipped a switch for me. And so I started playing around with fiction.
Is it the whole sense of like I've read, I'm learning how to write talks. That's like something new for me. And I'm learning that when you're trying to get across an idea to people, facts and figures, they don't they don't resonate with people. People don't take anything away from that, that it really
Sure.
is story. And so that's what you were trying to do, was find the story that was a hook that could help get
Right.
your other part of your messaging across. Is that it?
Sure. But you've got a point. In any career where you have to present the value of your product or your service or whatever, the statistics don't matter. You have to bring in the story to make it resonate. I had to train my salespeople on how to tell stories, that statistics weren't going to convince anyone. It was just going to make people zone out. Oh, and you've lost them. So they had to connect with people they were talking with. First of all, they had to listen. You have two ears and one mouth. Use them in that proportion. So you must ask questions. You must ask questions and listen and dialogue around that. And that's the same thing with fiction writing. You have to listen to your characters, all right? You have to be
Yeah.
able to get into the mind and the emotions of your characters and then they come to you in your dreams, believe it or not.
So you were doing this technical writing, but you had
Yeah.
to juice it up. And
Mhm.
that then started to trigger your interest in going down the fiction path.
Right, especially when I was with NAMI and CHAD, the nonprofits for mental health. um, I had to write um, every week, every month I had to write things that would connect with the people who either had the mental illness or their family members, their loved ones had the mental illness or the mental health issues. And that got me into writing nonfiction for human issues rather than technical issues, artificial intelligence, government intelligence, things like that. But the real human issues, the personal issues. And then I started playing around with fiction. And that's oh.
Did you
So
start with short stories or did you just
yes,
dive
oh
right
yes,
into a novel?
yeah, short stories, and a few of them were published in. Several of them were published in literary journals and an anthology and things like that. So
Wow,
yeah.
so cool. How long was it after you started writing fiction before you decided to take that leap into your first novel?
Mm, probably 2 years,
Uh
about
huh.
2 years. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So it's so, I just find it so interesting that when you start to take on something, the progression of it's not, I think people suddenly think, oh, you just decide to write and you write and all they see is the end result, right? There's not, there's no sense that we see people's successes. We see people's posts to social media and we see where their journey has brought them to, but we don't see everything that went into that path that brought them to that place and time. So I just find it really interesting.
Okay, so on that subject, on that topic, um, when you and I talked before, I mentioned something that had been a huge help for me. So on that same topic, I did take a lot of um, classes, workshops, um, read books, so forth about fiction writing. And one of the things that I found most helpful for many reasons, which we had talked about before, was Donald Moss' concept of the emotional craft of fiction. Now, he has this approach that says, you're writing a story and you say, he was sad. Okay, that's one thing. Dig a little deeper. All right. How is he showing that he's sad? Right. Well, why is he sad? The thing that just happened or something that happened years ago? And how did the years ago thing that's inside of him right now affect his being sad right now? So Donald Moss has this approach that you start at this, oh, he feels sad, and you keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and finding the root causes, what is driving a person from his soul, right? And my childhood was full of tragedy, trauma, death, separation, abandonment, abuse, blah, 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 blah. So I learned at a very early age to suppress my emotions. I'm cool. I can handle anything. I got this, right? Well, Donald Moss's approach changed me and it changed my writing. So that first book that I'm currently rewriting, revising, overhauling, that's some of what I'm doing with that first book. And the current book that is being published, there is so much emotion in that. From it's a multi-generational story, and they're all fucked up, right? And so each one of them, there's complex emotions, both past, present, and the future, that need to be plumbed so that they can take their own journey to transformation for good or bad. And so it made a difference in me too. And I think, as we mentioned before, I think that's why um, I have suddenly had so many more friends than I ever did, because that has changed me. That's made me more open and self aware and aware of other people's feelings and emotions, and more of a listener than I had been. So
Wow.
that's my story.
Yeah, there's so much in there, Leslie. It's, you look at a story of somebody who's done something that's an accomplishment. You've written two books, and now you have a published novel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many of us we look to what we want and what we think that's going to do for us. And very often what it does for us, it's not in the accomplishment itself, it's in the it's like, so there's a reason for the cliche, right? It's in the journey. It's what did actual learning to write do for you, was to help you get in touch and be able to become more open, it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like. And now the benefit of that is way beyond the publication of a novel.
Right.
It's relationships
Mm-hmm.
with your friends, and how amazing is that?
Yeah, yeah. And when I wrote nonfiction in my job and in my research and things like that, it didn't touch me. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't touch people, right? And then when I started touching people, that was the first switch. And to learn how to write fiction and encapsulate people in fiction. And you mentioned one thing about talk. One of the things that I was afraid that I wouldn't do well when I started writing fiction was dialogue. But it turns out that that's one of the best things I do, because I've learned to listen. Listening is
And I can
critical.
see how surprised you are at your own, right?
Yeah, right.
Look
It's
at
like,
me,
wow.
I can do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
Yeah, there's things we don't even know we're capable of,
mm-hmm. That's
right?
right. Yep.
How much is possible if we allow ourselves to be surprised, to surprise ourselves?
You know, that's a really good point, because the the sense of discovery and surprise should never ever stop, no matter what your path is. I mean, you can be in your 50s, Yvonne, or you can be 77 like me, and you can be 80, you can be 90. There are some amazing authors who are still writing in their 80s and 90s. So
Yes, my
I
friend's
think
mom she's in her 80s, I think, upper 80s maybe, and she has just published her first book series. And it's a fantasy.
that's great.
They went the self-published route.
Yeah,
She's got hearing issues. I think she's got sight issues. And here she is, and I guess she's made it like to some top lists in Amazon for, it's like
that's great.
unbelievable. I mean,
That's
I
great.
things like that just fill my heart,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know
You
incredible.
know, it's really true. I mean, if you, I didn't manage to retire for good until I was, let's see, 74. Um, I kept on retiring, and then people would
You had
ask
mentioned to
me
me
to,
that
yeah,
when you
right.
tried to retire like 3 or 4 times. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
What did you
And
think you were going to do when you retired? Just out of
that's,
curiosity.
well, I was thinking actually about writing. That's where
Uh-huh.
I started when I started thinking about writing. And at whatever age you decide to retire, whether it's 65 or 75, how much longer are you going to live and what are you going to do with those years? If if you stop being surprised, if you stop putting yourself out there trying new things, then you die. You die in your head, you die in your heart, you know. So and that affects you physically as well, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely, it
yeah.
does.
So continue being surprised.
I love that. I love that. Not only, I mean, I also have to mention that, I love podcasting over Zoom because here I sit in Norwalk, Connecticut, and you are in Mexico. That's another thing that you have done. That's a big. You actually moved to Mexico not too long ago, right?
Absolutely. 2.5 years ago, um, the small city that has been voted the best city in the world by
Wow.
Condé Nast.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's several years running. UNESCO World Heritage Site, a worldwide mecca um, for the arts. The San Miguel Writers Conference is going to go into its 18th year this February,
Wow.
and the arts and music and theater and it's an old colonial city with cobblestone streets, and the people here, not just the expats, but the local people, their core values are around respect and family, and the goodness of the people are just, yeah.
Wow. And it's San Miguel de Allende, is that right?
Correct. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
And that's because Ignacio Allende was key in the revolution against Spain in 1810.
Wow. So now let's go back to your to like pre-move. Like that's a big deal to you're an expat from the United States.
Mhm.
That's like a big move.
We're permanent residents. Have my little permanent resident card. Yes. So we had come down here in 2019 and we enjoyed it a lot. And then we came back in January and February for the Writers' Conference of 2020, just renting. And I just knew that it would be life transforming to move here
What have
because
I'm just dying to know. Have you like have you learned something about yourself in making that move or in settling in a new place? Did you know people in town already? Did you have a community there?
no, actually, we met some people when we came down here in 2019 for a 3-week vacation,
Mm-hmm.
um, and stayed in touch with them. And then when we came back in January, February of 2020, we reconnected with them. And it's like a spider web. You connect with them and they connect you with other people and they connect you with other people. And um, our friend list is bigger than I can handle, actually, to tell you the truth. It's just, and there's so much to do in San Miguel in terms of live performance and um, literary and musical and artistic things going on that I have to set my foot down occasionally to my husband and say, "We've been out enough this week."
That's
But it's
fantastic.
yeah, everyone is so friendly and open, and you walk down the street and you learn to make eye contact and nod and say hola or buenos dias, or because that's the polite thing to do. You walk past tables of diners in a restaurant, and it's the polite thing to do to say buen provecho, which is bon appetit. You know, so it's there are polite things that are customary that takes you into a different behavior mode, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's an embellishment on your own personality when you learn that there are customs of respect and decorum that, it's like putting on a new dress. You just feel great.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Have you, so continuing with that theme of allowing yourself to be surprised, have you surprised yourself in what is new about your life in living in Mexico? Like is there, beyond the idea of taking on new customs and all that, is there anything that you've learned about, you and what you're capable of in making a move like that?
Um,
Or does that remain to be seen? Is it too
I
early?
think it remains to be seen. I've learned more about friendship, and um, I've never been really good for a variety of those childhood reasons at maintaining friendships, continuing to reach out. Um, I'm what I like to call an ambivert. I'm really an introvert that can be very extroverted for a limited period of time. And
Yes.
then,
I
okay,
I can
yeah,
totally relate. That's
yeah, right,
exactly the
right,
way I
yeah,
describe
right.
myself. Yes.
Okay, okay, I'm watching
I
the
get
clock
you.
here. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So, um, I've gotten a little better at proactively reaching out, and which is a step outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But people come to me all the time, and it's just really surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
It's
think
it's
that it's
it's
more
just
about
like
the
they
writing, or do you think it's has the move also been
no.
part of it, or is it more about the writing?
Okay, the move is part of it in that it puts me into a really wonderful environment where people are better. The
Mm.
people are better.
Mm.
The culture is better, and that is really good for me.
It sounds like a warm embrace of
It is.
culture.
It is.
This is the
It
way that
truly is.
sounds.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh.
It really is. And then the corollary, of course, is that the people I meet are more friendly. And I've been shocked that people eagerly reach out to me to be my friend. I said, what? Well, really?
You want to be friends with me?
But yeah, I think it's this whole mix of getting to the point in my fiction, in writing fiction. Thank you, Donald Moss, wherever you are. Um, that has opened me up emotionally, and I'm not 100% there, but I'm a hell of a lot better than I was. And so it's that mix, a new environment where the culture and the people are so much more genuine. They're not judging you on the basis of what country club you belong to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they like to talk about real stuff, not, you know, who's your hairdresser?
I have to just tell you, like for me, hosting the podcast has been a similar experience to what writing has done for you, in that since I started this project 2 years ago, I have so many wonderful people I've met. It's just been incredible, and I am an ambivert. I can put it out there when I need to, and I mean, one-on-one conversations like this. That's why I knew podcasting was for me, because this is my sweet
Yeah.
spot and comfort zone. But yeah, big groups of people, I'll fake it for a little bit, and then I have to go hidey hole it up for a while. But I've never made so many friends as there. It has been something that has brought something out in me, and I don't know. I still don't really know what that is, but I can relate to that transformation that you have gone through in your writing and what that has made available to you
Right.
and within you to make
Yes.
connections with people.
Mhm. Yep.
I'm so happy for you.
Well, I love my characters. They take on a life of their own. They come to me in my dreams. And
Wow.
I have to tell you a what I think is an amazing story. Um, my main character had a huge challenges that he finally triumphed um, in an epilogue, okay, because it was such huge challenges. And in the epilogue, in his triumph, his best friend always had his own anthem. His best friend played the Black National Anthem. I don't know if you know any. A lot of people don't know anything about the Black National Anthem.
I
Um,
don't. I have to
yeah,
confess
right.
ignorance. Yeah.
But then my character said, "I need an anthem," because the Black National Anthem is one of overcoming and persevering and that kind of thing. And so in the epilogue, he goes off on a 3-day hike with his best friend, and he comes back and he tells his wife, "I'm back for real now," and hits his playlist. And his playlist is Michael Bublé's, or actually, he had listened to um, a different version of it. Um, I'm feeling good.
Oh, I love that song.
Yes, yes.
I'm
Okay. So then we
feeling
went
good.
to
Is that the one? Yeah.
yeah, right. Then we
Yeah.
went to a jazz performance that had three female singers um, singing the songs of like um,
All the standards type
all the
things.
standards.
Uh huh.
Yes, right. And one sang that song.
You're dying. Oh my
Right, the
gosh.
tears come down, because my character is in my heart, you know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm getting weepy now. So,
I totally get you. I get weepy all the time. Oh my gosh, I totally get that. And I think I'm going to ask you a question. You answer this for me because I feel like there must be a piece of you. I mean, that character must be you in there somewhere, right?
yeah. Well,
You
yeah.
think or no?
Yes, definitely. Well, maybe I don't want to talk about that right
Okay, okay. Okay.
now. Yeah,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah,
I hear you
yeah.
there. Oh my goodness. I am
Yeah,
excited. I can't wait to read it.
okay.
September's
You can
coming.
pre-order right
September's coming. So again, let me see. The name of the book is Secrets in the Mirror, right?
now.
September 13th. So we're a
Right.
little
Atmosphere,
early.
right. Atmosphere Press.
Okay,
We've got
cool.
to put in a plug for Atmosphere Press.
All
Okay.
right. Awesome
And if this
atmosphere
comes
press.
out, yeah, and if this comes out early, anyone who has access to NetGalley, who does read reading and reviewing, it's available. The ARC is available on NetGalley.
The
So
ARC. So tell me what the ARC is because I'm not sure.
advanced reader copy.
Advanced reader
So
copy.
that's
Okay.
available to bloggers who read and review.
Okay, good to
Yes,
know. Good
yes,
to know.
yes.
And then you said we could or pre-order.
You can
So if you
pre-order
don't
right
mind,
now.
let us know how to do that, and then I'll make sure that I put a link in the
Just
show
go to
notes.
Amazon. Just go to
Amazon,
Amazon.
really?
Yep,
That easy?
yep, yep,
Pre-order on
that easy.
Amazon. Boom.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I love it. Okay, so I will have that in show notes for everybody.
Okay.
And I wish you the best of luck with the launch. And as it
Yeah,
gets closer, as we get closer to September, maybe we will put this out there again just to
great,
remind
great.
people that it's
Yeah.
coming. And
Well,
congratulations.
thank you.
Leslie, thank you so much for being with me today. I cannot wait. And I can't wait for people to hear your story. Very excited. Well, there you have it. I loved speaking with Leslie. I really find hope in her story. You know, I think it was before we hit the record button for the actual interview that she told me how surprised she's been to make so many friends at this point in her life. And more importantly to her, that those new friendships are deeper. And she fully credits learning to write with opening her up to her emotions. And as I think about it now, I also have to wonder if the courage that it took her to connect to her emotions as she was writing then translated into giving her the courage to open up to other people. I think when we get courageous and step outside our comfort zones, it gives us confidence to do it again in new ways, in other ways. You know, we start to change the way we think about ourselves. So, my challenge to you and myself is to surprise yourself this week. Do something you really want to do that you've been scared to do. It doesn't have to be public, and it doesn't have to be the whole thing. You can take a step towards it. It can just be for you. Something that you can look at the end of the week and say, I did that. And this is the really important part. Celebrate your courage. Acknowledge it and see if it gives you the courage to do another brave thing. And let those small wins build on each other to help you get where you want to go. Not that this is the only way, but I personally think joining the Midlife Uprising community could be that thing. I'm just saying. Anyway, you can find more information at midlifeuprising.com. I would so love to have you join us. Thanks so much for being with me today. I hope you have a fantastic week. Stay safe and well. Talk soon.